Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. As you know, it's Sunday night, and we're heading into the big week for the North American International Auto Show. And I think now's a good time as ever to comment on the whole diesel fiasco. So, where do I begin? I know where. Let's start off with the whole bullshit absurdity of the EPA. Let me tell you about Alicio Canyon over there near Porter Ranch in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles in the state known as California. Check this out. I was actually born and raised in California, particularly in the valley, and there's an area out there called Porter Ranch. And if you haven't heard the news lately, there is a huge BP spill like disaster, even worse actually, going on. And it's been going on since October 23rd. It's only just recently that the governor of California, Moonbeam Jerry Brown, declared a state of emergency. Let's overlook the fact that his sister is on the board at Sempra Energy, the company actually responsible for the gas leak. Let's dig into the actual problem. Now, first, if you're not familiar with the area, this is actually on the cusp of the valley where millions of people live. And the prospect here is that these homes are not only being threatened, but so is everyone else in the area. And it's not something to treat lightly, especially when you look at some of the stats that are being thrown around here. And let's not forget how much bullshit is centered around global warming, because the stats are actually different depending on who you talk to. But for the most part, if we go over to CARB, which is the California Air Resources Board, and we talk about Porter Ranch, you'll notice a stat in one of their handy-dandy websites. First of all, you have to understand that there is a well that doesn't have a safety valve. Okay? And with that broken valve and that broken well, there is a leak going on that California Air Resources Board is saying, as of December 23rd, is equivalent to the annual greenhouse emissions for more than 480,000 passenger vehicles, and the leak is likely to continue for months. There's a huge problem with this. Let me explain. Now, there's not enough alcohol in the world for me to drink right now to really smoothly say this, but Aaron Brockovich, if you're watching, you need to stop using California Air Resources Board for your stats. And here's why. Number one, we're not going to equate annual emissions of cars to damage that has already been done. That's like saying a shot of vodka is the same as drinking 5 beers. Yeah, that may be the case, but once you've had that vodka, it's not the same as 5 beers, is it? So, let me show you something. Originally, before we had this stat, we actually knew how many metric tons of methane gas was, let's just say, expelled into the environment. And in order to arrive at 480,000 passenger cars, we have to know roughly how many metric tons of carbon dioxide are they talking about. Well, we're not going to find it on this page, so let's dig a little further. For time's sake, I'm going to skip Googling this shit for you, and I'm just going to show you directly. If you go to carbonbrief.org, you'll see a whole breakdown of the well, the removal of the safety valve, the results of the disaster. Let's call it a disaster because that's what it is now, officially. And let's look at some of the stats. On this website, we happen to have this handy calculator for us. And I'll explain what this means to you in a second. First of all, it's counting out leaking methane. The real-time impact right now is 81,977 metric tons of methane. That's very interesting. That is all estimated to have escaped from Alicio Canyon since October 23rd, and it's still leaking. What does this mean in reality? How does this impact global warming? Well, as a diesel driver, let me explain to you how this works. Essentially, the way this works out is, on a global warming scale, methane has a lifetime in the atmosphere of 12 years. And it has a global warming potential for 100 years of 28 to 36, whatever that means. I don't know. I'm just looking at the EPA website. In fact, let me show you what I'm looking at. Oh, here we go. Just do a search for EPA methane, and you'll end up on the page I'm talking about. Here it is, overview of greenhouse gases. We'll see the overview, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, which is not NOx, and F gases. And here we'll see where methane comes from. It actually comes from landfills, coal mining, manure, other, that probably is DC. Hey, Cynthia. And then we have fermentation and natural gas and petroleum systems. Somewhere in here also is most likely, beyond just landfills, sewage treatment. But here we have lifetime in atmosphere of 12 years, and we have a global warming potential of 100 years of 28 to 36. What the fuck does that mean? Well, let's just read here. Pound for pound, the comparative impact of methane on climate change is more than 25 times greater than carbon dioxide over a 100-year period. So, wait a second. The EPA and CARB are basically doing nothing at this point, and methane is 25 times worse than carbon dioxide. And the fact here is that, wait a second. What? Okay, all right. I get it now. All right, so we're on the EPA site, right? So let's go back to the gas leak site. All right, so we have 81,979,000 metric tons of methane, right? So let's pull up the calculator. So 81,979, right? And it's 25 times worse. Well, that's 2,049,475. That's lower than this number here. Where is the Environmental Defense Fund getting this number from? I don't know. But let's figure out something here. I'm just curious. If we have 2,049,475 metric tons of carbon dioxide, forget this number. What does that equate to in cars? And after all, we are using the car theme here because originally Aaron Brockovich on Democracy Now! Was saying something about quoting LA Times back in November, saying that the original beginning of the leak had already equated to 160,000 cars on the road. And I question that number. And this is getting back to my whole point about Aaron, you got to use different stats because the LA Times gave you some whack shit to use. And let's just go right to the belly of the beast. Let's do this. So here's an idea. Let's just go to fueleconomy.gov or whatever the hell it's called. Yeah, there we go. This is a government website. Oh look, another EPA logo. They get around, don't they? And let's look up a car. Let's find out what specific car we can use. How about the oh, I know, the Volkswagen TDI. How about, gee, I've driven so many diesels lately. Let's use the Volkswagen Golf TDI, the 2015 model. Let's see what that looks like on fueleconomy.gov. Let's pull those nasty stats. Oh, let's see here. Find a car. I know what I want. I definitely want to pull up the 2015. There, you're already selected. Let's do the VW Golf. There it is. Go, go, go. Now, let's see. I drove the Golf 2.0 manual. This is it right here, this one, the turbo diesel 6-speed manual. Brilliant car. Let's go in here. Oh, what are we looking at? Okay, so miles per gallon. Yep, diesel 55, 50. Okay, that's good. You have to keep in mind here that I actually did personalize this real quick. Basically, if you look at my video that I did earlier this year with my brother, we actually did a challenge driving the Golf from Austin to El Paso on a single tank, which was about 555 miles. So I've done it to be equivalent to the real world experience that I've had. So we're assuming 15% city and 85% highway, 15,000 miles a year. That's fine. We could probably bump it up, but let's just keep it like that. I think many people who lease cars don't even do that much a year, and if they do, they're in deep shit with their over mileage fee. But let's get back to what we're looking at, the carbon dioxide. I don't see it here. Oh, there we go. It's this tab, Energy and Environment. Now, if you look here, we see, bam, metric tons per year. Tailpipe carbon dioxide, only 3.6 metric tons. Huh, that's funny. Am I seeing this right? I'm on the EPA site for fuel economy. I guess it's the Department of Energy as well. And it says diesel, 3.6 metric tons per year. 8 out of 10, 10 being the best. That is awesome. So let me see here. 3.6 metric tons per year. So if we do the math, um, so that's 2,049,475 tons of metric tons of carbon dioxide have already been diffused into the air, or whatever you want to say if you're with the EPA. I guess you're saying nothing if you're from the EPA, because literally you haven't said anything about this spill yet. But let's divide that number by how many Volkswagen Golfs? Well, we're going to find out. 3.6 metric tons per year, right? So, what? No way. Clearly, what we have here is a failure to communicate. What the fuck is going on? So let me get this right. The whole gas leak that's still going on so far has equated to 569,298 Volkswagen Golf TDIs just in carbon dioxide emissions? Wow. That's like almost the same amount of Volkswagen TDIs that the EPA is slapping VW for using a defeat device. It's far more disconcerting than it is entertaining, because Volkswagen was caught cheating by using a defeat device, even though when the device was in place, it did pass emissions technically. So we know it passed, but not all the time. And then we're not really talking about carbon dioxide, though. We're talking about NOx, but NOx is not a greenhouse gas. Methane is. And let's see, what was the reason again why this methane leak occurred? Oh, yeah. It was because back in the 70s, the gas company actually removed a safety valve from that well. So isn't that worse, removing a safety valve? That's like taking out the seatbelts and the airbags and not telling anybody. Isn't that what that's equivalent to? Like, shouldn't that be 10 times worse than using a little defeat device? I mean, look at the fact that in just since October 23rd to today, or in that case, in that original measurement we got, Sunday evening on January 10th, we've already gone over 500,000 diesel Volkswagens in just 3 months. And that's over a year of driving. So let's see how many Volkswagens it is just if you were to have VWs driving around that little town of Porter Ranch. How many VWs do we need in Porter Ranch to equate the same amount of the gas leak that has gone on? Let's figure that out. Oh, okay. So we're going to bring that calculator back. Let's see. 3.6 metric tons per year. 3.6 divided by 12 is 0.3 metric tons a month. Okay, so at the same 85% highway, 50% driving in the city, 15,000 annual miles, pretty green car, ironically, 0.3 metric tons. So let's go back to the leak site. And here we see the most recent official estimate from CARB. So basically October, November, December. So 2 months, 66,000 tons of methane. So where's the calculator? 0.3. Let's just remember that. So 66,000 times 25 is the methane equivalent of 1.65 million metric tons, right? So if we divide that by 0.3, oh no, wait, we have to divide that by, what is that? By 2. So where do we go? 66, 1, 2, 3 times 25, whoops, 1.65. We're going to divide that by 2 because it's been 2 months, right? So on average, 825,000 metric tons for the month times 2. I hope I didn't lose you. And we're going to divide that by 0.3, right? Because that's what the Golf emits. And let's see how many Volkswagen Golfs need to be running around in that town. Oh, no. Wait a second. 2,750,000 Volkswagen Golfs have to run around nonstop in Porter Ranch to equate the same as 66,000 tons of methane in those 2 months? Wow, that's incredible. I mean, keep in mind that it's 2.75 million Volkswagen Golf diesels consistently on a constant basis. That's nuts. So essentially, until the leak stops, there are 2,750,000 Golfs roaming around on the street nonstop until they cap the well. And the funny thing is, the FAA has actually quarantined that area, so it's a no-go zone for airplanes through March of this year. So that's like 6 straight months of this leak, and it might taper off, right? But let's just immediately get the impact here. That is 2,750,000 Volkswagen Golfs running nonstop from the day the leak started until it ends. So let me see here. The big thing, Aaron, if you're still watching this, is I know that you guys have said the mercaptan, that nasty smell that they put into the natural gas, because obviously methane is colorless and odorless. The way you detect it is with that rotten egg smell, and that's that mercaptan stuff. That, and the fact that there may be radon from 8,000 feet underground being emitted into the air as well, that is actually causing children and residents in the area and pets to have nosebleeds, seizures, and all sorts of health issues. And now, even with the state of emergency, doctors are advising people to get out. They're actually relocating people in that area. As a TDI owner, if you're a Porter Ranch resident, I feel your pain, especially when it comes to perceived depreciation in value. But in all honesty, Aaron, you need to update your stats because the LA Times isn't equating this on a good level for you. So let's use a current crisis with that the EPA is not addressing, with something that the EPA and the DOJ think is worth billions of dollars. How is this gas leak not worth a dime? Oh, that's right. The California Public Utilities Commission. This just gets messier and messier over there for you guys. I feel your pain. But in all honesty, the mercaptan I can equate to NOx emissions. And even though Volkswagen did confess to a defeat device that raised NOx levels, NOx does give similar symptoms to mercaptan. The only difference here is that if you're behind an old diesel truck or a Volkswagen Jetta, you can get around it, or maybe it'll change lanes and go somewhere else. If you're in Porter Ranch, you're fucked. And, well, let's talk about buybacks. Do I expect Volkswagen to buy back my Audi A6 TDI? It's a likelihood. There's a rumor. I can't totally write it off. I mean, it's a possibility given the fact that I have no information. But if you're a Porter Ranch resident and you've been relocated, I mean, you're in a worse spot than TDI owners. So I'm so sorry. I'm definitely sorry that the EPA hasn't done squat. I mean, they haven't had Cynthia Giles write up a nice little press release about how the gas company is a really bad. Oh, wait. The California Public Utilities Commission. See, this all circles back around one thing, and that is people who don't appreciate diesels, people who don't appreciate those old-fashioned cars that run on, let's just say, dinosaur juice. Those people who believe that electric is the future, well, aren't they now just patsies for the Public Utilities Commission? Let's put it this way. If you think electric cars are the future, why don't you toss out your oven and your stove, and why don't you cook with a microwave from now on, for the rest of your life? Because you think that vehicles should be that way. I think you should put your money where your mouth is and not only drive a Tesla, you should cook with a microwave. Oh, and by the way, thanks for not using those fuels because it just leaves more for people like me to live a normal life and cook with real gas and enjoy myself. Oh, also, by the way, if you are driving a Tesla or a Leaf or any other electric vehicle that comes out in the future, all you're really doing is supporting the Public Utilities Commission, which seems to have more power than the EPA over a massive, massive leak. So you're basically giving power to another government entity that's just going to ruin your life. I should have told you to start drinking with me because it would have been more entertaining. Wait, what's this on my screen? No way. Right here on the EPA's website, it says reducing methane emissions. I'm surprised that it says that here because it doesn't seem like they've done anything so far based on the current leak that we have that is hugely gargantuan. Now I understand the whole thing about Aaron Brockovich saying this is worse than the BP oil spill. I mean, this directly impacts millions of people. Let's see what the EPA says about this. There are a number of ways to reduce emissions. Okay, but how do you get rid of them? Well, looks like you just do a voluntary program which supports, yeah, no, this doesn't really answer my question. So, what do we do here? I think we go to Google. Let's go to Google. Let's do NOx methane. What do we get out of Google here? Nitrogen oxides, ozone, and methane. Let's check that out. What is this? This is CO2offsetresearch.org. Okay, well that seems like a legitimate answer to my question, right? How do we get rid of the methane that has currently been diffused into the environment? Let's see, Stockholm Environment Institute. Huh. Well, look at this. NOx and hydroxides produced from water vapor and volatile organic emissions catalyze production of short-lived greenhouse gases. NOx released during air travel increases ozone in the upper troposphere but destroys ozone in the lower stratosphere. Well, that's a good thing, apparently, right? Let's see. Hmm. Climate responsive ozone formation. Yep. Okay. Input of NOx. Huh. NOx emissions also lead to indirect destruction of methane through the creation of ozone? Wait a second. So NOx emissions, uh, what? So NOx emissions from these grossly polluting defeat device equipped TDIs are actually the key to resolving this clusterfuck methane problem in Porter Ranch? So maybe we should all run out and buy TDIs and start running around with, well, wait a second. There are only like less than 600,000 TDIs in the country since they were actually imported here. So what is that? 100,000 sold since a year since 2009. So to get 2,750,000, Volkswagen would have had to sell TDIs in this country at their current rate for 27 years to even have 2.75 million of them on the road. But if we did, they would produce enough NOx emissions to offset this methane sink. It gets even better than that because I just got to the second item in their what is this? Their outline. Third, lastly, NOx emissions, which we all know the TDIs are good at, and the resulting reduction in methane in turn lead to longer-term decrease in O3. Okay, what is that? Greenhouse gas ozone? Okay, so that's a good thing, and therefore a small cooling effect. Wait a minute. So NOx, which creates ozone, eats methane, which turns into a longer-term decrease of ozone, and therefore a cooling effect over the same lifetime as the methane reaction. Ozone itself has an average lifetime on the order of weeks. Now, Aaron Brockovich, if you're watching, I understand your frustration, but Cynthia, you don't make any sense, girl, because NOx reacts with this methane to actually destroy the bad ozone that NOx has created, and basically now what we have is a cooling effect, which probably explains why there's rain in California right now. So, are you sure you're going to get any money from Volkswagen? Because from my perspective, you don't get a dime. You should be out of a job. Actually, let's do this. Aaron, and actually you too, Elon Musk, because I know you said this VW pollution was insignificant, and I believe you. And thank you for stepping up and bringing this to the table, because Aaron, Elon, I think you both need to work at EPA. Well, if you don't, that's okay. I'm sure we'll find out this week what's going to happen with Volkswagen and EPA and CARB. But I hope you guys have watched this video and understood the math, because you can't argue with math. Have a good one.